Serious, what is the scariest thing to happen to you when you've been home alone? The Niemeyer 95 responded. I was home alone at my dad's while he was working nights, making my dinner and everything. I was probably about 14 or 15 at the time. I was watching TV while my potatoes were cooking when I heard something slam into the front door. I grab my pocket knife and check it out, nothing. About 10 minutes later I hear another bang on the front door, repeat, and still nothing. Really freaked me out cause we'd had a few houses get broken into on my street. Turns out I didn't put enough holes into my baked potatoes and they exploded in the oven. Geeterman 9 responded. Was home alone one night and it was close to Halloween in 2015. Loud as knock on the front door. I was eating dinner, so I slowly but cautiously go to the front door. Open it up and there is blood all over the front porch and no one there. Kind of freaked out a bit, thought it was a prank. Called the cops because what the fuck, why no? They said they would send someone there. They called back and said someone was on a bike and fell and was bleeding bad and was going door to door asking for help. I missed the person, but one of my neighbors helped them out apparently. Crazy. Lunazeus responded. The scariest thing that happened to me I didn't know actually happened until the following day. I lived in an apartment in a not so good part of a dangerous city with my boyfriend who worked nights. One day our friend came over and called me to let him in our building in a hurry. Turns out this guy had been crouched by my car in the parking lot and had approached our friend and closed in on him. My friend pulled out a weapon and the guy ran off. Upstairs I noticed that the guy had left a green bundle near my car and assumed he would be back for it. It made me uncomfortable, so Elle suggested we call the cops. Not 5 minutes after a cop showed up to ask where the guy had gone, SWAT, K9, and about 10 cars showed up and swarmed our area. Turns out the guy had escaped from county the night before with 2 other guys. He was in jail for assault with a deadly weapon and repeated domestic violence offenses. He had climbed the fence in the yard behind our building where our landlord kept his camper, broken into the camper, and stayed there the night before. He had stolen all the electronics out of it as well as a butcher knife and was trying to break into my car before my friend showed up. I had been alone the night before and had taken my dog down to the yard to go to the bathroom. I noticed that the barbed wire on the top of the fence had fallen down, and my dog was nervous. But I brushed it off. The guy had been in the camper watching me the whole time and I never knew it. Uncomfortable liking responded. Probably pretty lame compared to most stories on here. Was working pretty late, 2 a.m., on my computer when I get an alert from my security camera that detected motion. I checked it and there was a person staring into my apartment window in full view of where I was working. I closed the computer, turned off the lights and went into the bathroom for a bit. Turns out being extra paranoid when someone is staring into your apartment at 2 a.m. isn't a good combination. I checked the camera memory and the guy was there for 20 minutes, just real casual. Called the cops and the kid ran away and came back an hour later. Haven't seen him since. Tony Danza responded. There had been a scratching in my ceiling for a while, and my landlady was dragging her feet over having it looked into. One night, around 2 a.m., the scratching became so bad it woke me up from a dead sleep. I tried to reassure myself that whatever it was couldn't really get through to me, and I would be fine until I could call my landlady the next day and really press the issue. Then some debris fell from my ceiling. Whatever was up there had managed to dig a small hole into my room. I screamed, and heard some scurrying away from my approximate location. Grabbed any stuff I needed for the next day, got the fuck out of there, shut the door tight behind me, and slept on the couch. I called my landlady first thing in the morning, and she had someone come while I was at work that day to check it out. A mama raccoon had managed to get her way into the space between the roof and my ceiling and had given birth to a litter of kits. The guy speculated that the kits were getting old enough to start wrestling around, and that was likely what led to the hole in my ceiling. Luckily it was just small, the size of a quarter, so there weren't any angry raccoons hanging out in my room when I got home. They were able to safely trap and release the whole little family, but I still started hunting for new apartments ASAP. I move into my new place on May 1st. Deleted responded. When I was younger my mom left me and my little brother home alone while she ran to the store. I was in middle school, so old enough to be left home safely for an hour, and my bro was only 2 years younger. Mom leaves and me and my brother are watching TV in the living room and we see a bunch of smoke from the big bay window facing the front yard shortly after she leaves. We look, and a car has crashed into the ditch that is next to our driveway. I grab the phone and we go out on the porch. I call 911 and give them my address, then I call my grandma and tell her what happened. Cops and the whole emergency entourage gets there. I go talk to the cops. Mind you, we lived on a state route. It's a 2-lane road, so the entire section of road in front of my house is closed off. My mom rounds the corner of the side road to pull onto the SDRT and sees a ton of cop cars in out driveway and shutting down the road, 2 fire trucks, at least 2 ambulances, and, as any mom seeing this, freaks out. Note about the road and our house: the road is significantly higher than the ditch, so it is entirely possible to miss the wrecked car. Especially when you know you left your kids home alone. They allow her to park in the neighbor's driveway since ours is currently occupied. And we see her sprinting across the yards. The cops intercept her. She sees that me and my brother are okay and is able to calm down enough to talk to the cops. TLDR car crashed in our front yard when I was left home alone. Gave mom a heart attack from all the emergency vehicles surrounding her house when she tried to drive down the road. You/overly_Cloverly responded. I was probably 9 years old, my sister was 6. We had a babysitter who was 12, so alone in the sense that no adults were around. Jackass that I was, I squirted bug spray on my sister and she chased me in retaliation. I ran through some French glass doors to get away from her. She went for the knob and missed. Her arm went through one of the glass panes. She cut herself so deep, you could see muscle, tendons, and bone. It looked like a shittily cut piece of raw meat, since that's basically what it was. The babysitter held a piece of cloth on my sister's arm until my mom came home, called her right away, and took my sister to the ER. She didn't hit an artery, so it wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was scary as fuck at the time. Got 60 stitches out of it. You/Shardil responded. It was a hot summer and my parents went to a wedding. I had a project to do and it was like 1 a.m. and silent until a random drunk dude crawled in through my window with a bottle and blush face. I was 20 feet away at my desk from the window and we both just stared at each other. He was flustered and said, "Oh sorry, their kid wrong house," and attempts to leave the way he came. He was drunk and dizzy, so I helped him by pushing him out the window. I thoroughly shut it and stared at it for 2 hours until my parents came home. Edit. First upvote above 50. Wow, will try and read all if not most and reply if I can. You/deleted responded. Someone tried to break into my neighbor's house while I was babysitting their kids. I was 15 and I used to babysit for my neighbors down the block. They had a really nice house, 3 floors with a built-in garage under the house, that connected to the basement. It was the family's most used entrance of the house and they rarely locked the basement door as long as the garage was closed. They also had the type of security system where anytime a door opens you heard beep beep beep. After the parents left one night I was putting the kids to bed and I heard the beep beep beep. I yelled out, thinking it was the parents coming back for something, but no one answered. The system on the wall kept reading basement door open. I was freaked out, so I called my dad and asked him to come by since he was only a few houses away. When he arrived, he told me to stay in the kitchen while he checked the house, but before he could, we heard the beep 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 again and then the garage door opened. When we ran to the window to see if the parents were pulling into the driveway, they weren't. Instead, someone in a hoodie was running out of the garage door and into the woods behind the house. My dad ended up calling the cops. I'm still creeped out by it. You/Hatguy Productions responded. Once while I was home alone, I had been warned not to answer the door, for anyone, or I might get taken away. One sales guy had been banging on the door repeatedly for the last 6 minutes. I guess I hadn't muted the TV fast enough. He screamed, "I know you're home alone in there." I about died. Edit. Wow, this blew up. Thanks. I was about 7 or 8. Edit 2. Thank you for the silver, and the yikes. My first 2 awards ever. Edit 3. Some of you were wondering. I just waited until the guy left. Told my parents what happened that night. They freaked. You/Hannah Montana 1 responded. This just happened last week. I woke up to someone in my house. Walking up the stairs to my bedroom, it was about 1 p.m., and I work 3rd shift, so I was sleeping. In my haste, I didn't grab my bat. I whip open my door and it's my ex-best friend, whom LVE blocked on every social media site. She starts yelling at me for not responding to her and how she misses me. IDK. What scared me more, the split second I realized there was an intruder. Or that someone I knew would just take it upon themselves to force me to talk to them, by trespassing. You/Androidis4LYF responded. When I was around 8 or 9, my mum commuted to a major city about an hour and a half away, so Elle would bring myself home from school, about 100 m away, lock the door and watch cartoons or play Neopets until she got home. We lived in apartment blocks, and one day one of the older male people in the apartment lost his wallet, and he figured it must have been me. Keep in mind, LVE never stolen anything in my life or had any trouble with the law, and I had no clue what he was talking about. He came and banged on the door so aggressively that I jumped out of my skin, and was belligerent demanding I open the door. I rang Mum crying and she jumped on a train to come home, but she was an hour and a half away. She called some friends and they came and got me, and at that stage he had taken a break and gone back to his apartment, but left his dry cleaning there. When Mum got back, she stormed straight to his door and pounded on it like he had done to our door. He came to the door, all shocked, and she demanded to know why he thought it was appropriate to bang on the door for an hour to scare a little girl. He replied that he thought I stole his wallet. Mum asked him if he still thought I did, and he said no, I found it in the car park. She looked like she wanted to kill him, and forced him to apologize. Also, in that same apartment block, there was a hairline fracture on the sliding door that we didn't know about. A strong wind blew and shattered the entire window inwards. I was home alone then too. That was scary as fuck. You/couch creepin responded. It was spooky movie night at a friend's and we were 3 movies deep, just finished watching Dark Skies. I was hungry, so I was like alright getting my leftovers, so I went downstairs by myself. When I closed the fridge I caught movement out of the corner of my eye, and when I turned to see what it was there was a ghostly white, skeletal thing just staring at me from outside the patio, with shimmering hazy lights pulsing behind it. I fucking freaked, dropped my food and run up the stairs nearly in tears, babbling about someone or thing in the backyard. Turns out it was just my own reflection mixed with the lights and steam from the hot tub outside, but I've never been so scared in my life. You/Barbie at Lalaki responded. We lived outside a rural town and my mother always told my father not to leave me home unsupervised because it was a 20-minute drive from town if some accident were to occur. Anyway, my dad was a completely irresponsible parent and so he ignored that advice and instead left me at home by myself at age 7. However, before he left to go back to a meeting he explained how to load and cock his 12-gauge shotgun under his bed with buckshot and told me if anyone comes to the door and try to break in, shoot them. Fast forward a couple hours, my mother calls him and asks how everything is going. He says I'm home alone. She loses her mind and rushes out of work to come home and get me. In her rush she forgets her house keys. So she gets home, and starts banging on the front door. I didn't hear her voice at all, so being the obedient child I am I go into my parents' room, load the gun and bring it towards the door. I cock it and I don't know if my mom heard it or what, but she suddenly stopped banging and yelled my name instead. It's probably the only reason she's alive today. I was really scared before I knew it was her, but I assumed my dad was smart and told me the right thing to do. You/Atmolder responded. I was actually at a friend's house when her parents weren't home. We were maybe 10. It was her, my sister, her sisters and me. We decided to go swimming. There had been a rash of burglaries lately, but mostly garages being broke into. Anyway, we were in the pool when we noticed the kitchen light turn on. It was evening. We assumed her parents, so looked in the window to do something stupid to get their attention when we realized we do not know the individual in the house. We hid behind the wall of the pool, above ground, terrified until her parents finally came home. It appeared as though he got spooked as he only ransacked the kitchen and left the garage door wide open when fleeing. You/Reteparator responded. Not sure if this counts. Was working on a farm in northern CA. It was a start-up and I was the only person, at nights, on an isolated 650 acres. After dinner, was walking from the lodge to my cabin, 100 yards plus it's dark so all I can see is what my flashlight illuminates plus a little on the periphery of the main beam. Anyway, walking back and in the periphery I see red fucking eyes staring at me unblinkingly. I turn the light on it and all I see is a pale white mass behind the still red eyes. I freak. Takes a little bit to get me jumpy, but this sure as hell did. Picture a 6 feet 5 inches 260 pounds man. Now picture him letting out an unbelievably high-pitched scream and straight sprinting into his cabin, 50 yards or so. The next day I was talking to one of the guys that come up to help out during the day, told him what happened and he about fell over laughing. I think the sincere terror in my voice as I described the pale monster really drove the funny nail home for him. Well, turns out there's such a thing as albino deer and just so happens one frequents this property. Nobody thought to warn me beforehand. Edit. Punctuation edit edit. Thanks for the awards and all the likes. This was exciting to wake up to. You/Salislings Thebus responded. The lights turned off all at once while I was in the kitchen. It was pitch black. I heard the door open. For some reason, instead of thinking power outage, my brain went to someone has cut the power and is coming to kill me. I grabbed the landline, the knife, and was crouched behind the kitchen counter, hearing steps come through the house, trying to breathe as quietly as possible. Then I hear my mom go, "Hello? Anyone home?" The power went out by chance at the exact moment she came in the door. That would have been an awkward hospital trip. I believe in dinosaurs too responded. For me, I was 12 years old and my dad was at his girlfriend's house. I went into my room to take a shower. I always put a chair under the door handle in my room because it didn't have a lock. My grandma loved giving me porcelain dolls and she decorated my room with shelves that had porcelain dolls on them. All of the dolls were on their shelves before I got into the shower. When I exited my bathroom, one of the porcelain dolls was 10 feet across the room, face down on the ground. This doll must have flown across the room to have landed where it did. Also, the doll was not broken. Needless to say, my grandma was sad that all of the dolls were packed up and put in the attic for safekeeping. Hestian Virgin responded. My house came with an alarm that kept track of movement in every room. I set the alarm before bed, but I woke up in the middle of the night because it was alerting me that there was movement going back and forth between my guest bedroom, down the hall, and into my office. My alarm has a robotic speaking voice, so in the dark I'd hear it say, movement guest bedroom, movement second floor hallway, movement office, etc. I assume it was a glitch, and nothing to worry about, but I ended up turning that function off. I also heard human footsteps above me in my attic once, home alone while my wife was out of town. But I posted that one already months ago. Clarification edit. My original phrasing is confusing, so I wanted to clarify. I got up immediately and searched through my entire house. Couldn't find anything, figured it was a glitch, and turned the feature off the next day. I didn't ignore the alarm that night. Romanthacat 3333 responded. I was chilling in my bed with my dog watching TV and I hear a door shut downstairs. I look out the window of my sister's room cause she had a view of the garage, but the garage was empty. I grabbed a pocket knife and crept downstairs. I searched the basement as well as everywhere on the ground floor and found nothing. Went back to my room on edge for the next couple of hours until my family got home. Still don't know what happened, and it couldn't have been wind cause it was winter so we had all the windows closed. Not that scary, but a door closing when you're home alone and not even 12 is a little spooky. Train responded. I was 15 or 16. It was a Friday night, and my parents were having dinner with some friends. I was supposed to stay alone at home for 3 or so hours. A middle-aged guy got into the garage and was trying to break into the house. He was carrying a bat pipe something, was angry as heck, and kept yelling my dad's name. He broke windows and a door, and damaged my mom's car. Luckily, he didn't get inside. I was so scared I didn't even think of calling the police. I remember how my hands were shaking and how I was trying hard not to cry. I called my mom and my parents rushed home. They called the police on their way. Police arrived a few minutes later. Turns out this man was married to one of my dad's co-workers. She was cheating on him and she told her husband the other guy was my dad in order to protect the real other guy. Deleted responded. My grandparents paid me to house sit for them and take care of their animals, 2 dogs, 2 goats and like 3 or 4 horses, for 2 weeks. One of the dogs was really clingy so I closed the door on him when I went to bed one night. I woke up in the middle of the night but I was too tired to move, but I saw a black figure with a white face standing right beside the bed. It was making this horrific growling noise and leaned into me and pressed down on my chest. It pressed harder and harder and then I was able to move my fingers and then I was eventually able to move my body, but after that, I let the dog sleep in the room and I slept with the lights on. That was the first time I experienced sleep paralysis, and thankfully the times after that one weren't freaky.
Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end. Leave your own stories down below, I would love to read them. If you would like to see more videos like this, please like and subscribe, it helps me out greatly.